So let's start digging a little deeper here, and if you could start sharing your story. For those who don't know, Jami has actually battled and conquered cancer, and so I would like you to kind of just pull back that curtain of your story and share that with us.
So actually, I didn't battle cancer. I chose other words.
Okay.
So that was a big deal. So about it was 2 years ago. It was at the very beginning of what's called an open enrollment period, in which I have 3 months to write as much new business and help as many people as I possibly can. And the short version is I woke up one morning with one really weird little symptom, and I thought this can't possibly be right. By noon, I had an appointment in front of a doctor, and within 2 weeks, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. And there was no explanation as to why a healthy woman would get this diagnosis. And so going back to your comment of that I battled cancer, I chose to approach it differently.
Okay.
And so let's start with how I labeled it and what that experience was like. So between that first doctor visit and 2 weeks later when I was going to have, it's a CT scan and a test called acystoscopy, and that's where they slide a little camera up into your bladder and can actually see what's going on in there. I had 2 weeks in between those two visits. And so being the intelligent woman that I am, I went to Dr. Google and practically every day was Googling my one little symptom. And for 2 weeks, I kept getting basically the same result, is that it was bladder cancer. And so I had 2 weeks to mentally prepare. And as I was driving to that final doctor visit where I was going to have the CT scan and the camera thing up close and personal, I realized in a moment of clarity in my car, just said, Jami, you have cancer. And I paused a little bit, and then I thought, now what? What am I going to do with this? So I am a big fan of self-help books and podcasts, which is why I love yours so much, because I've watched them all and gotten so much out of them. But so I have a long history of watching motivational podcasts and reading books. So in that moment when I said, now what? First, it was Sheryl Sandberg's voice I heard, and she said, lean in. And I said, okay, I'm going to lean into cancer. And then, of course, Oprah's voice came in, and she said, embrace it. I go, okay, I'm going to embrace cancer. And then the last voice that I heard was Pema Chodron, who's a Buddhist nun, and she said, everything in life is a lesson. And so I said, okay, cancer is going to have lessons. So I'm going to learn lessons. And so literally from the minute that I became consciously aware that I had cancer, that was my plan. I was going to embrace, I was going to lean in, and I was going to learn the lessons.
Okay, the show's over. That is amazing.
Done.
Good Lord,
Yeah.
that is such a shift in mindset and just recontextualizing it. That is beautiful.
So, and then from there, an hour later, my doctor looked at me and she said, you do have cancer. In my case, it was a tumor the size of a golf ball. And I give her a phenomenal amount of credit because all in one breath, she said, yes, you have the appearance of a cancerous tumor. Good news, 85% of bladder cancers are treatable. Great. And I obviously clung to that 85%. But so that was basically the start of the journey. It was just reframing it into a perspective that I felt comfortable with. And I want to add a caveat here that's really important to me is there are a lot of other people out there who get diagnosed with cancer. And their experience is painful and tragic and dark and scary. And I don't want to take anything away from those people. I honor them. I respect them. We all do the best with what we have in the space and time that we have right now. So I honor those people. I simply chose and was very conscious and aware that I had alternatives in terms of the perspective that I was going to have on this experience. At the time, my son was still living at home with me. 23 years old, and I had to tell him that I had cancer. And so from the very beginning, our conversation was, son, we're going on a cancer adventure. And this is going to be a cancer journey. And let's think of it as an amazing roller coaster ride. There will be ups and downs, and we have no idea where this roller coaster ride is going to end, but it's going to be an adventure, and we get to do it together. And so that's where it all started, was with perspective. And he struggled with that, God bless him, a lot more than I did, because he had a lot more to lose, I think. For him as a 23-year-old, he wasn't ready to lose his mom. And so I have to, kudos to my son at age 23, became my hero. And I wrote a book, and it is dedicated to my son, my hero. And the things he did to step up as my caretaker and my dear, sweet, only child, it was just amazing to see the transformation in him. So if we had nothing else out of the experience, just watching him transform from a boy to a man was utterly amazing.